There's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And they spread fear and lies. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy.
The new tough, divisive Joe Biden is even more dangerous, I reckon, than the old confused, incomprehensible Biden. I mean, the way he's trying to demonise 75 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump is about as polarising as you can get. And this from a man who promised to unite America. A little earlier, I caught up with US author and commentator Kristin Tate, columnist with The Hill, and I asked her how all this unity is looking now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Chris. And there were so many problems with this speech that were just so utterly disturbing. I mean, leave aside the diabolical staging, which made our Independence Hall in Philadelphia, which usually has this timeless aesthetic, really into a hellish nightmare. Leave aside the presence of the 2 U.S. Marines on either side of President Biden, which if a Republican had done, would have gotten slammed endlessly by the mainstream media. Leave aside the fact that the president had these clenched fists and was yelling at the top of his lungs and was dressed like a Star Wars villain. And then leave aside the fact that, taxpayers funded this speech and it was supposed to be apolitical, but it was basically a campaign speech. Leave all of that aside and focus just on his words. And this was one of the most disturbing and divisive speeches in modern political history. 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump in the last election, and President Joe Biden essentially labeled those 70 million people enemies. I mean, this president spoke about fellow Americans the way George W. Bush spoke about Al Qaeda. It's absolutely insulting and really disturbing. You have the Democrats talking out of both sides of their mouth here. On one side, they're insisting that Donald Trump is this great threat to the republic, but then on the other, they use every chance available to them to elevate Donald Trump, because Trump is all they've got. All they can do is just try to scare people about Donald Trump. They've got nothing on the issues, and they know they are in for some huge losses in November. So this is kind of their last-ditch effort. And Biden and the Democrats know that they cannot run a campaign on the actual issues. This country is a mess right now. We have out-of-control inflation. We have a completely open southern border with millions of illegal aliens just pouring into this country. We have a failing public school system. The problems have gotten so bad under this president, they cannot run on the issues. So they want to make the whole midterm elections, they want to make the whole thing all about Donald Trump, who isn't even on the ballot.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
They want to whip up their voting base into a hysterical frenzy about these imagined threats to the republic and Donald Trump. I don't think it's going to work, but that's what this is all about, changing the narrative.
The FBI and the Justice Department have become vicious monsters, controlled by radical left scoundrels, lawyers, and the media who tell them what to do, you people right there, and when to do it. They're trying to silence me, and more importantly, they are trying to silence you, but we will not be silenced, right? Very dishonest, sick people. Very dishonest people. Americans are sick of the lies, sick of the hoaxes and scams, and above all, sick of the hypocrisy.
But it will also really energize the right, who feels very attacked by this president. I mean,
he's an enemy of the state. You want to know the truth? The enemy of the state is him and the group that control him, which is circling around him. Do this, do that, Joe. You're going to do this, Joe, right?
Well, to be fair, Trump was responding to what President Biden said, and President Biden is our president right now. I mean, it's really unprecedented to have a sitting president saying these kinds of things, not just about one individual, Donald Trump, but about everyone who voted for him. Again, that's like half the country. And I think this administration realizes that they may have gone too far, because on Friday of last week, we saw President Biden trying to backtrack on his comments a little bit, saying, oh, you know, I didn't mean all Republicans. I didn't mean everyone who voted for Trump, even though it's clear when you watch the speech, that's exactly what he meant. But
Mr. President, do you consider all Trump supporters to be a threat to the country? No, everyone.
Come on, look, guys. You keep trying to make that case. I don't consider any Trump supporter a threat to the country.
But our opponents have badly miscalculated. This egregious abuse of the law is going to produce a backlash, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before.